Hi, Pat. Welcome to the Comedy Slab now. My name's... I can't carry on like that. I was trying to say Billy Connolly, but... I have got a glass of water standing by. We are slabbing today a show based in Glasgow, hence my rather vain or otherwise attempt to... vain on... yes, spell that how you will. Anyway, hence the attempt to... rediscover my Scottish roots, and I won't do the joke about the hair that Shane does every time we mention roots. Oh, there I go again. Anyway, I'm Adrian Lacey, not in Glasgow, although I am a quarter Scot around the Wallet area. I am in rural Buckinghamshire at the moment as we speak. Get me. And daughter, or otherwise known as Shane O'Connor, is, he's what I think of as up north, but actually not that far north. He's in the Midlands. So come on in, Shane.
Oh, it's cold enough. Cold enough tonight to be classed as up north. Can I just apologise as well? Here I am again. Listen to me. I mean, it sounds like I'm on a one-man mission to have this podcast sponsored by Benadryl or
Vic.
Something or other, Vic Vapor or something. I don't think, since I've had kids, I've had more colds than I know what to do with. And here I am again. And I have to say, you've done the gags already just before we started recording. That I feel fine. I just sound terrible. Adrian said, well, that's ever since I've known you, darling. You've always been like that.
Do I laugh like that? I'm sure I don't. Anyway, so here we are together, happy as can be. We're not quite together. Normally we'd be 170 miles apart. I haven't done the calculation as to when I'm at my girlfriend's, but let me do a quick calculation. She's 70 kilometres away. Trust that to be in different units. I'd say we've still got 130 miles between us, which feels safe enough. Especially, I'd call that...
That's enough, isn't it?
Social distancing or anti-social distancing, one of the two.
Call it a safety distance, yeah. That's enough, isn't it? Yeah. I wouldn't want to come any closer, would you?
I feel the repulsion already, like, the same poles of a magnet.
You're all right, steady. You'll give a bloke a complex.
Well, I'll give you a simple complex as you're simple and I'm complex. No, the other way around. Well, anyway, before we put on the notional slab, the critical slab of comedy, we're going to put a BBC show. You can find it on BBC iPlayer, certainly in the UK. Available free at the point of use, although it will ask you if you've got a TV licence. The show is called Two Doors Down. It's now in its 5th series, and it's to series number 5, episode 1. We go shortly. But before we do that, we have some comedy news. Do you want to lead into this, or shall I? I mean, we're both across what we're going to do, but...
Well, you
okay.
Go on. You're doing better than me.
I'm not sure that's strictly true, but it caught my eye because it involves one of our favouriteest producers, I think. And there's not too many comedy producers who themselves become names, but I would argue that certainly if you know one or two names in that field, Armando Iannucci will be known to some of you. And as soon as I mention Alan Partridge, etc., the day-to-day, do I want to mention Veep? That's him, isn't it? Yeah, American production.
Veep, yeah.
And we could go on and on and on, and we will in our own way. But you get the idea anyway. He he's moved from radio long since to TV long since to the world of film. And now he wants to take on, in the medium of film, not through the medium of dance, but through the medium of film, he wants to take on social media. That's the headline in this article. We're taking this from chortle.co.uk. I'm sure it's appeared in numerous places because he's only got to drop a hint about his next project, and entertainment journalists come running, and so they should. So, I mean, surely that's pretty long overdue. It's not that no one's tackled social media, but the sort of angles that Armando Iannucci is interested in. For instance, obviously through the thick of it, he's dealt with politicians and power, but also the way that power slipped from, say, pre-Armando Iannucci days, yes minister, yes prime minister. The powerful people then were the civil servants. Well, the canny thing that Armando spotted with the thick of it and in the loop, sort of in similar areas, was that the PR people, the Alistair Campbell, or Ali Campbell, if you want to get too familiar with Tony Blair's press secretary, was sent up with the likes of, Peter Capaldi, in the equivalent role, but now he's turning his fire on social media. That should be an interesting take, should it not?
I don't know. I don't know whether he's missed it. Is this a ship that sailed? Has he missed the boat with this one? I don't know whether there's anything original, clever, new, nuanced, funny, intelligent, articulate, hilarious.
Well, have you swallowed Roger's thesaurus?
Yes. Do you think he's a thesaurus? I don't think he did. I will say that. And then when you talk of his body of work, he's made some fabulous stuff, hasn't he? But yeah, the subject for me, I kind of think, oh, really? Again, is this something that that is at the cutting edge, or is he following in the wake?
Well, he is of a certain age, as are we, and I guess, if he's going to attempt to be down with the kids, that could open him up to accusations of being a bit behind the curve, as you say. If it's a sort of, if he's well advised by people who really understand it, I'm not saying he doesn't understand it, but you've only got to watch my girlfriend's 11-year-old who can put something up on TikTok in the time it takes me to make a cup of tea. So he needs that sort of nous advisors, perhaps. He needs to dig under the skin of it. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit David Bowie and Tin Machine stuff, isn't it, really?
How long ago was it that we slabbed
Veep?
The YouTube parody with Tim Key in it.
That'd be a couple of years ago. Please like.
Please like. Which is doing all the things that he said he was going to. Do you know what I mean? That, to me, that's where he's at with it. Which is 18 months, 2 years ago. And that was mainstream BBC TV. You kind of think, wow, you are really kind of behind the... It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's that question about social media and who does it belong to? Does it belong to everybody, or does it just belong to young people and old people tag along? Or does it belong predominantly in certain social media, like Facebook, for example, belongs to older people more than younger people? TikTok belongs to younger people more than older people. It's who owns the battleground, isn't it? Is an interesting thing and an interesting take.
Well, yes, absolutely. And yes, they've each got their markets and they know who they're delivering to. And it's easy to think, if you're really submerged in whatever your poison is when it comes to what I call and insist on calling anti-social media, it's easy to think everyone else is on it. For instance, you move in the circles of broadcasting, and Twitter's massive. In terms of numbers, it's, I won't say tiny, but it's much less significant than Facebook. Purely in numbers terms, you could argue, when the president of America, in the form of Donald Trump previously, was on Twitter, then that had a massive knock-on effect. Love him, loathe him, whatever. He only had to do one tweet from the loo in the morning, and that was the next day's headlines. If you were retro and getting your news from print media.
I think to me, it's a bit like Hold Your Breath. It's the same conversation, but on a different subject that we had about toasting Tinseltown. You kind of think, oh yeah, I'd like it to be really successful and really funny and really enjoyable. I don't know whether it will be or not. Let's hold our breath and cross our fingers and hope for the best. I think it's one of those, to me, Adrian, is one of those situations where you kind of think, I'd like it to be, because I love what he does. Although, it just reminded me, I was reading the article and I thought, I still haven't got around to watching The Death of Stalin.
No, I felt exactly the same. I'm behind the curve.
I've got it. I just haven't watched it. But yeah, I think for me, it's that kind of thing. It's like okay, go on then. I trust you. I'm not so sure. Let's have a look. It's one of those.
I think it's got to be benefit of the doubt. Anyway, at the very least, it's worth reading that article. As I say, you'll find it on chortle.co.uk, amongst other outlets. And just click on the link to the headline, Armando Iannucci to take on social media, which currently, as we speak, you will find the link to that, at least on the front page of Chortle. One to watch. As was, because it was the homework I set you, Shane, last week, and our dear listeners as well. Yeah. Not forgetting them. You're rather important to us. It's the BBC show Two Doors Down. Now, I confess I hadn't seen it before. I definitely didn't realise it was in its 5th series. Now, I'm not sure if all of those have been networked across the UK. It's a BBC Scotland, I think, commissioned it. It's a BBC Studios comedy production. They've now got their own sort of hived-off area, as far as I can see. As we always like to reflect on this end of the show before we get our scalpels out ready to put it on the marble to dissect it and see who salutes, give it scores out of 5 each at the end of the show, adding up to a total out of 10. Before we do that, I like to get, and we swap roles each week, of course, but when it's me having put the homework on the list for the previous week for you to do, I'm interested to know how you felt.
I think I mentioned last week, I can't remember, but it was one that I'd kind of, in my own mind, I got my own sort of little notebook at the back of my mind, I must watch that, for entertainment and for pleasure rather than to put on the slab. So it was one of those where I kind of thought, actually, this is a great opportunity now, because it'll either make or break it for me. It'll either be, yes, I've got to get in and get on right from series 1, episode 1, or I'm glad I didn't waste any more than half an hour trying to watch it. So yeah, I was kind of thinking, not a bad suggestion, really.
So just a quick précis before we have the first of 2 audio clips. It's set in a suburb of Glasgow. I would say sort of, I don't know, do you feel that distinctions like working class and middle class, it's more middle class than working class, but do you think those kind of distinctions on housing estates, now we don't have, councils don't build council estates from scratch, so everything's, would you say it's a little bit more of a grey area? It's
funny you should say that, because I went to a lovely estate the other day down near, I think it was near Cheltenham, or sort of between Evesham and Cheltenham kind of way. It's a brand new estate. And I said, I came home in the evening, I said to my wife exactly that. I said it was quite interesting because the housing stock was wonderful. And it was only as you kind of drove in and realised that there were bits of cars in the front garden, and kind of it had got the look that you would see, what I was used to in inner city Birmingham. And it was really disconcerting, because you kind of thought, hang on, this is a really nice new estate. And maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was. I don't know. Perhaps they just, it was avant-garde sculptures with motor vehicles. Who knows?
Yeah.
They put Christmas lights on some, so they were, it was quite Christmassy. They made an
some pride, civic pride, clearly. Anyway, so it's a modern-ish housing estate, and the couple, we've got Arabella Weir is one of the 2 UK audiences, and particularly fast show audiences of the past, of which I would have been one. She'd be well known to fast show viewers, but she's had a good career. She plays Beth Baird, and her husband is played by Alex Norton. He's Eric Baird. And shall we say, a lot of people, the neighbours 2 doors down, or maybe more doors down as well, are taking certain liberties in imposing themselves and expecting, shall we say, a warm welcome from Eric and Beth. Anyway, we're about to illustrate how earthy it can get. I think that's one way of putting it, or bawdy, or let's not beat around the bush, as it were. We're in the arena of, shall we say, toilet humour. And the first voice you're going to hear is that of a neighbour, Christine O'Neill, played by Elaine C. Smith. And, I think Christine will explain to us, as she does indeed to the Arabella Weir character, Beth, just what has been going on for some past hours, if not days.
And I've gone back and checked everything I've eaten. And the one thing that I keep coming back to is that sandwich you made me the other day.
What?
The ham and the tiger loaf.
Christine.
What was the date in that ham?
The ham is fine.
And your boards are clean?
Yes.
And your cloths are being washed regularly?
Yes.
You're feeling all right?
Well, I was up until now.
Well, that is a mystery, because this is the furthest I have been from a toilet pan in 48 hours.
Well, are you feeling all right? Do you want to come in?
I don't know. Is Eric in?
Yes.
Oh, well, you want to know all about this. Hello, Eric.
Hey, Christine, how are you?
Oh, wait a minute. I need to use your loo.
Are you all right? She's got a bit of an upset stomach.
Oh, I'm glad she's come in here to have it.
Is it vomiting or diarrhea, Mrs. Baird?
The latter, I think, Gordon.
False alarm, Beth. We're okay. I did break wind in your hallway, though. Apologies.
Yeah, with friends like that, really, you're well-sorted for enemies, aren't you, really? Come over and do that kind of thing. I mean, it just gets worse and worse and worse, doesn't it, really, in terms of her imposition. Shall I be giving you a headline, then?
I'll be wanting a headline for the Glasgow Herald now.
Yeah. Well, mine was simple. It's 2 doors down, right up my street.
Oh, I was trying to predict, as I always do.
Yeah, what did you think?
Well, I absolutely didn't know. To myself, I had to, in terms of trying to second guess you, I ended up sitting on the fence thinking, well, he could love it. On the other hand, oh, he's not going to like that. Oh, no, hang on a minute. That's quite earthy. Well, that's good. So what was the main charm of it for you?
Do you know? I don't know. I was sat on the toilet earlier.
Oh, here we go.
Thinking that I was this.
Is that
catchy
method viewing?
Yes, yeah. Elaine C. Smith rubbing off on me. I don't. Do you know? I was sat there thinking about it earlier. I really don't know. I mean, it really pleasantly surprised me, and so much so I said to Angelina when I finished watching it, I said, "Well, do you know, we're gonna have to sit and watch this. I think you'd really like it as well." It's got a great cast. It's got great writing. It's not too pacey. It's not too slow. It's not too bawdy, but it's bawdy enough, isn't it? You know, for me, it just hit all the marks, Adrian. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what did you think? Were you as much a fan, or
not as much a fan? I have to say. I can do my usual thing of saying, you know, certainly respect for it, and I say my usual thing, you know, what's usual. I'm in the area of it being perfectly competent and certainly extremely experienced actors, and snippets of it worked for me. But when you say about pacing, before I forget, I found there was one oddity about the direction, and again, I'm sure the director's very experienced and won't need any notes from me, but I got fed up with these reaction shots of gurning. It was, you know, they must pay their tax at source because it's pay as you gurn.
Yeah.
You know, and it kept happening. And okay, so it's part of the show's house style. What do I know?
And sometimes there were 2 or 3, weren't there? So they kind of almost like go around the room.
Yeah,
from one shot
like
to another.
Every one of those slowed down the pacing. Of course, people do react. That is the natural human thing. And you know, goodness knows, drama and comedy, they're all trying to reproduce in various ways with various little riders and tweaks and tricks and flicks. But they're trying to reproduce real life or real semi-realist stuff like this. You know, it's not trying to be exactly like real life, but it's not sci-fi.
No.
And people do react, but it's just I've just found it very, very strange. Really, I couldn't work out what it was trying to achieve, which might be a daft thing. It's trying to achieve entertainment and laughs. But
I think, do you think what it did do though? It gave it the opportunity to breathe, so that I never felt that the script was running at 100 miles an hour, and I think that was part of it. Was that it had allowed in the edit, it allowed it time to settle, to breathe, for you to get the joke, for you to think about the joke, for you to think about who was reacting to it, why they were reacting to it, what it was that was going through their mind. That you're kind of adding the bits in yourself that they're not saying or doing, that you're thinking, oh, he thought that. And it gives you the time to do that.
But I felt slightly patronised by that, as if I couldn't work out. Well, the other thing that it made me think, that the natural question is, well, if that is not the norm, because I feel it was abnormally repetitive and holding on these reaction shots. Of course, you get reaction shots in anything. EastEnders, I haven't seen it for years, since I worked on it, in fact, but every scene used to end on a sort of filthy look, for impact. Yeah. But that was the house style. Clearly, it is here. But I mean, I ended up asking my girlfriend Alison what she thought would normally be in the place of that. So what is that replacing? And we sort of, between us, we sort of thought, well, it's more likely to be a group shot. Where you would see a number of characters' reactions, instead of this sort of tight shot where I felt almost under pressure to laugh, and I didn't feel like going with it. It didn't work for me.
There weren't many shots, were there? There was the kitchen, there was the hallway, there was the door, and there was the lounge, and most of it took place in the lounge, didn't it?
Yeah, that could make it feel a bit theatrical. It made me think about the show we put on the Slab for Christmas, which was the Christmas Rising Damp. Yeah, which we commented on at the time, and like all our back catalogue, friends, it's all up there, available via Spreaker, and we'll mention other ways if you will insist on going down other routes. But we don't delete shows, so you might enjoy that. And enjoy seeing the Rising Damp show itself, of course. But that came out of a theatrical play, as we were saying at the time, so you could kind of accept it didn't go outside. This one, I don't know. Well, it depends how you feel about modern architecture and modern estates. It felt to me, I kept thinking what you'd said about the Rising Damp set and how you were sort of fascinated by how, I mean, it really was damp and the windows were opaque with dirt and so on. This seemed a bit too clean, and because the house had less character, I felt the show had less character, but clearly it didn't worry you that way.
No, and I think it's good that you bring up the example of Rising Damp, because I think the difference between the two is the pace. And Rising Damp, it's like firing along. It's going like a steam train, isn't it? The lines are coming thick and fast. Whereas this had a much more relaxed style, and I mean, I felt it was archetypal Scottish humour. Where I think the very first line from that clip that you played, where Elaine C. Smith comes to the door. And I think the first thing she says to Arabella Weir's character, to Beth, is "Are you solid?" and for a while I'm thinking, what? And then eventually it transpires what she's talking about, and it was that was the pace of it that kind of made. I felt like I did a lot of thinking in the show about kind of putting the building blocks together for myself. Rather than having to think, what did they say there? I did a lot less going back and going, what was that? What was that they said there?
And that's the other thing. It's one hell of a lot of episodes. Okay, forget America, which is they do things on an industrial scale, but 5 series for not many comedies, homegrown comedies in the UK get 5 series, and for something for me which is a bit on the bland side, a bit like the architecture of the housing. one series I can understand. 2 is okay, fine. 3, it might hit its stride, but 5, I mean, how can you have? Well, I suppose I shouldn't judge without watching, but I wouldn't know myself if I was trying to have anything to do with a show like that to get the degree of variation I think you want, or is it not variation? Is it its sheer predictability that makes it such a success?
I do wonder the amount of episodes and the amount of series. I do wonder, is that something to do with the BBC and regional programming? And because this ordinarily, if they hadn't set up a new company, would have been BBC Scotland, wouldn't it? I think, and I think probably the early series may well be. So I do wonder whether it's kind of, we've got the cast together. It's a reasonable winner. It's playing well to home audiences. Let's make some more of it, kind of thing. I don't know, but I do wonder whether it's that rather than if it was trying to survive in the whole of the UK. Whether it would have had 5 series, I don't know. But then, look at Mrs. Brown's Boys and explain that one to me. So.
I'm never going to explain it to you in any terms that you'll accept. I know, but each to their own, as the French say. Well, actually, they say it in French. Chacun a son. Was it? It was my dad's one phrase in French. He never learnt French. But chacun a son goût. Each to their own taste. So there you go, a little bit of French quotage on the Slab. Now, it may be connected to the number of series, the number of episodes, just to sort of pick up what you're hinting at. Did you delve into the writers at all? Because I thought this would be interesting for Shane. I did think of you at this point.
No, I didn't, no.
Well, you're going to love this. But judge ye not too early, and remember, you and I might one day have a comedy project that we want to run past the BBC. I know how you love the corporation. It's a classic 2 blokes, actually, and more often than not. When we grew up, it was only blokes, apart from, I can only think of Carla Lane, who was flying the flag for females, allowed to fly the flag, perhaps we should say. Anyway, Simon Carlyle and Gregor Sharp are the 2 writers on this, and I think credited as creators as well. Simon Carlyle, he's also credited with a couple of series, I don't know, Boy Meets Girl, it may be more than one series, a couple of shows, I should say, Boy Meets Girl and Happy Holidays, and that's holidays with double L characters called Holiday. Do either of those ring any bells with you? They don't with me. No. Gregor Sharp, I'm not so interested, and perhaps you'll not be so interested in his work as a writer, as the fact he's a BBC Comedy Commissioner, which I thought...
that's handy.
That's... but before you judge... he did commission This Country and Inside Number 9. Well, that's what he's credited with on IMDb. And,
Right.
and I, for one, because a lot of my professional life is spent at the BBC, I'm not going to stick the knife in, because actually, I think we could separate it, provided the quality is there. It's certainly there in Inside Number 9, and you like this show. So,
Yeah.
But most of the time, I think I get the impression he spends more time as a commissioner than as a writer. But, just as stand-up acts can stop being stand-ups and very often go into production or behind the scenes in writing. And then I can mention, not a huge household name, but a very respected guy in the industry, and he writes for Have I Got News For You, Kevin Day, took time out, as did Nick Revels, another name from the first days of alternative comedy, who stepped back from the mic, then went behind the scenes, then stepped back to the mic, which I always find interesting in later life.
I think as you get older, you care less, don't you? And you think like any issues with confidence, you might think, well, I'm getting older now. Sod it, I'm going to have a go. You know what I mean? I think you do look at things differently as you get older. But yeah, no, it reminds me of a guy I worked for who got made program controller and immediately put himself on the breakfast show, which was
yeah, that's slightly different.
I'm going to choose somebody. Hang on, who's the best person? Oh, I know. Yeah. I choose me. And immediately chose himself, which I kind of thought, is maybe they do that. They give you that job to just test your hubris, just to see.
Yeah. In which case he failed the test, as did Trevor Dan. Well, it depends which way you see it.
Depends on what the criteria was, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
Anyway, before we end up with too many lawsuits, because, they're so behind the times thanks to a certain pandemic, we can't really wait for all these libel cases. So even we have our limits. Let's get on to our second and final audio clip. Now, you mentioned the Glasgow Kiss. I haven't mentioned what is the central twist of the plot, which is, first off, I haven't mentioned the son. That's the son of Eric and Beth. His character name is Ian, so he's another Baird, and not a Logie one. Thank you very much. And he's played by Jamie Quinn, who I kind of recognise, but a familiar face or name to you at all?
Yeah, again, there were lots of familiar faces, but Jamie Quinn, certainly, who plays, it's Ian, isn't it, their son?
Yeah.
And I saw a program called Bluestone 42, which was again another Scottish comedy, which was set in the armed force. I think they're in the army, and I think that's where I recognise him from.
Right. Okay. Well, anyway, he's playing a gay character. As far as I can make it, I think he's their only child. He's grown up, but he arrives on the doorstep. He's been in some kind of skirmish. He's got those sort of steri strips, I think they're called. Have I got that right? Not sterident.
They're like sutures instead of stitches, aren't they? They're kind of just
Well, I can highly recommend them. I'd rather that. I've never had stitches, but I much rather have the strips. Because of my threshold of pain. Anyway, it's not about me, it's about Ian. So he's a gay character. His partner, Gordon, is with him as well. The whole purpose, the original purpose, I should say, of the meal was to celebrate their 2 years together. But then, of course, the neighbours have invited themselves round, blah, blah, blah. So we hear various voices here. But we start with Ian's voice. So at various points, Ian plays down his injuries. Here... he's been sort of quizzed. It's a group analysis and quizzing, so that ultimately he's had to admit it was an awkward situation, and Gordon was there with him, and it becomes a bit controversial that Gordon didn't leap to his defence. So here's Ian.
Listen, it was a nightmare. Anything could have happened. At the end of the day, it was better only one of us getting dragged in. Otherwise, it could have ended up a whole lot worse.
Okay, that's us ready.
Here we go. Curry time.
Woohoo! Lucky I made a big pot.
Oh, I'm ready for this, eh, Gordon?
Oh, yes, smells delicious.
Oh, thanks a lot for doing this, Mum.
Oh, it's no problem. Right, who's having some?
Oh, yes, please.
Oh, I don't know. My stomach's saying yes, but my arse is screaming no.
Just a wee bit?
I'm not sure if I should risk it. Is it spicy?
No, it's quite mild.
You're what?
It's quite mild, the curry.
You're joking. It's got to have a bit of a kick to it, Beth.
Curry is supposed to be spicy, Beth.
Gordon doesn't like anything too hot.
Is this because of you?
Well, yeah, sorry, I just can't take anything too spicy.
Oh,
I mean, Doone really hasn't taken to Gordon, has she, at all? She's,
I think that's fair to say, yes. Some of those reaction shots are of her revulsion or repellence or whatever it is.
Not a fan. Can't understand why Ian is knocking about with somebody who's so a bit like the curry, so bland. I mean, there's a wonderful incremental reaction to the curry. The whole when they first find out it's a vegetarian curry. He said it's a vegetarian curry. He said, why? Which I just
they didn't get that. Well, what? No chicken?
There's nothing, is there, in there? And it kind of unfolds, doesn't it, through the whole of the episode, their disdain and disappointment with this curry that Arabella Weir's character's made. But I just love the way that they handle stuff and the way that they handle the gay characters in a kind of matter-of-fact, normal way that families and close friends would. When they're talking about their second anniversary, and Doone McKeegan's character at once says, "Oh, well done, we haven't managed not to bum anyone for 2 years," or something like that. And then what's her name? The Elaine C. Smith piped up.
Christine.
She said, well, they'll not be doing anything with their bombs if they eat anything she's made. Which I just love the way they turned that round.
Not particularly right on, but yes, it's very scatological, and yes, various characters believably politically incorrect. You mentioned,
but not in a malicious way, is there? There's no malice in there at all. Do you know what I mean? It comes from
it's
a place
ignorance, I would say.
Yeah, it comes from a place of ignorance, or even kind of wanting to understand, but not really kind of being able to take it all on board. You know what I mean? It's that's how it felt for me anyway. There's no malice in there or anything. And when there was a suggestion that the attack on Ian was homophobic, I mean, that really kind of got their ire up, didn't it? You know, and they kind of got a bit annoyed about that.
Yeah, I'm not ready to forgive them quite as much as you, but that's good acting if it makes me angry, because it's at least believable. But you do need the spectrum of reactions. You know, the parents are completely accepting. The Dune McKicken character, Cathy White, less so. And honourable mentions for Jonathan Watson as her husband, Colin White, who you heard in that clip. Who I see his first acting gig, I don't know if you looked back, was in 1970. And given that I would say he's only still in his 50s, he's got to have been a child actor.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad stretch. And he's also got one credit, I don't know if you saw, as a writer. It's a show I seem to think was made, I could be wrong here, but from sketchy memory, was one of the first shows I saw in our schedules when I joined the BBC. It goes back to 1986, a show called Naked Video, and he's credited as a writer on that.
That was sketch. It was a Scottish sketch show, wasn't it? Yeah.
So no, maybe I'm wrong. I might be confusing it with Now Something Else, which was there around the same time. So that
wasn't
was
that Gregor Fisher as well? Wasn't that?
Yeah, I might have got it wrong, because that might have been a BBC Glasgow, BBC Scotland production.
Right.
But anyway, a range of work over a range of decades.
Well, Elaine C. Smith, who plays Christine with the dodgy tummy, of course, was
Dodgy
Ramsay
bummy.
Nesbitt's wife.
Oh, right. It's decades since I've seen Ramsay Nesbitt. I enjoyed it at the time.
So you know how far she goes back, you know. So
Yeah.
she's got the heritage as well. I didn't realise Alex Norton, who plays Eric as well, we just watched him. We just watched a 4-parter on ITV called Hatton Garden. I don't know if you've seen it, about the Hatton Garden robbery.
Oh, I saw it advertised. I didn't actually see the drama, but I'm sure it made a fantastically tense piece, a true story.
It was fabulous with Timothy Spall playing the lead in it,
Right.
Which is what attracted us to it. Thought, well, if he's in it, it's got to be good. But Alex Norton played a character called Kenny Collins, who was one of the robbers, who I would have sworn blind was English. So again, you know,
Wow.
he's. I was just looking at him. I thought I've seen him recently in something, and I looked him up on IMDb, and sure enough, he was the guy that was in Hatton Garden as well. So acting chops in abundance all throughout, isn't it? Really, which was nice to see. Nice to see.
And as ever, when I hear you laugh when I was playing the two clips, because we can hear each other and spy on each other's reactions, I enjoyed it more. And now you mention it, I mean, the interweaving of the themes of the fight, which took place in a chip shop, by the way, so the food's there throughout as ever, and the toilet humour, it made me think of Blackadder, and was it the Ada Edmondson character trying to understand as a Nazi, the English preoccupation, or British preoccupation, as it turns out, with our bowels. To us Germans, it is just a bodily function, but to you, it is a whole subculture. I'm paraphrasing wildly. Anyway, I've enjoyed it more as a result of you enjoying it. So that's one of the nicer infections going around at the moment. It must be time for the scores on the doors, Miss Ford.
Okay. Shall I go first then? And
well, since you asked the question, I was happy to, but I'm happy for you to equally.
All right, and I think, I mean, I'm hovering really, to be honest with you. That's, but maybe I've got an upset stomach like she had. I was hovering between 3.5 and a 4.
Right.
And I kind of, for me, like a Saxondale would be a 4.
Right.
And I'm thinking, is it up there with that? And I would be prepared to sneak it in. And if I was on a desert island, I could only take the 4s. I would definitely want it to be in with the 4s for me. So I think I'm going to go with it. I'm going to give it a 4.
Right. Well, I decided after my second viewing 3. I'm wondering now, do I need to revise that? But I'm going to stick with 3 because it's a good example of its type, its genre. But I don't really think it's me, that type of genre. Just a little bit too safe, a little bit too cozy, a little bit too domestic. But I wouldn't refuse to watch another one, and I was tempted actually to go on to episode 2, so that says something. Anyway, so 3 from me, 4 from you. I'm making that 7 out of 10, which is perfectly respectable. And that is, of course, for Two Doors Down. We've been dissecting. I don't think I mentioned it this time around. I mentioned it last week. The episode title, shock horror, is Veggie Curry, and does what it says on the tin, really, or on the saucepan. And the series is Two Doors Down. You can find on BBC iPlayer, certainly in the UK. If it's elsewhere, Shane, of all people, will have given you some steers with the blurb that comes with this poddo. So over to you, Boo Boo. What's it to be as our homework between now and next week?
Well, it's one I've had on my list for a long time. In fact, when it first came out and it was brand new on Channel 4, and I don't know how up to speed you are. Do you know, I don't know if you even know the guy, do you know Rufus Jones?
I know the name. I need a bit of a prompt. I thought you were going to say Rufus Hound for a moment, but that's a different character.
He was in W1A, and he was the one who used to go, oh, lovely is he? Oh, yes.
Oh, like that all the time.
Yeah.
In which case I do know him because I'm familiar with that, and we slabbed that, yes.
And I've always kind of liked, whenever I've seen him in stuff, I thought, oh, it's Rufus Jones again, because he's very different in everything that he does. He doesn't kind of sort of rely on one sort of formula for characterizations. Anyway, I saw this thing that he had written and he was starring in on Channel 4, and I thought, actually, that's got to be worth sticking it on the slab. Now, again, it was one of those where I'd intended to give it a bit of a shuft myself, as well as, as an aside, not to do with the comedy slab, but still hadn't got around to it. So it'd be a great opportunity. It's good. Do you know it at all? Do you know what I'm alluding to? Or
no, do illuminate me.
It was very low key when it was out, and I think it was about 9 months ago, something like that. It's a comedy, and it's called Home. Home, Home. And as I say, it's written by and starring Rufus Jones. And in the blurb, it said it's a comedy that definitely gets to the essence of home and family through Syrian asylum seeker Samadhi. And basically, it's about a family who comes into contact with an asylum seeker. And it was one of those, and I kind of thought, are there laughs there? I thought, well, there's only one way to find out. Oh no, that's Harry Hill. Sorry. But so I thought, well, why not? Let's give it a whiz. And it's still live. And I think for what Channel 4 are like, they're great with things like that on their All 4 website. It's still live and ready to go. So if you go into the All 4 website, and I thought Series 1, Episode 1, just to keep things simple, so we all know what on earth is going on, and just type in Home, and you should be able to find it.
Fantastic. Okay, Channel 4, Home, Series 1, Episode 1. Look forward to it. Super. On anti-social media, we are at Comedy Slab on Twitter. Do please follow us there for, I would say, quality over quantity. So we're not going to be bothering you with meaningless and useless information, unless it's something I've written, perhaps. But better comedy news, keeping up with that world and things we think you might be interested in. And we're also at Comedy Slab. That's our Facebook page, which it would be lovely if you could like that. Personal recommendation, always welcome, and thanks in advance for that, as with a review on Apple Podcasts / iTunes. If you could give us I nearly said a little star rating. Oh, what am I like? A generous star rating would be lovely, but hey, maybe reverse psychology works. I don't know. Thank you, as I say, in advance.
Anyway, that's it from us. Thank you very much for your company. I can only apologise again that I've got some disease up my bugle.
Other brass instruments are available.
I'm going to go and stick something up my hooter and see if I can get it sorted for next time round. I must have. Do you know I tried a lemsip the other week actually when I got one of these before, and I said to the wife, I said, if you're out, can you nip us? Can you get us a lemsip? You've got these lemsips, and I don't know what they've done to it, but I mean they never tasted gorgeous anyway. I couldn't drink it honestly. It made me rich. Really, yeah, really. But I've got this thing now that I spray up my nose, and it's a garden hose, and it's
well, a high pressure hose should work. Should clear it.
Do the trick, yeah. I'll tell you what, it blew my brains out, mate. I tell you. But no apologies anyway, because I feel like I've always got something wrong with me. But it's like me school reports from my school days. Shane's very good, but he's always got something wrong with him.
Yeah, and I don't think your psychiatrist has even scraped the surface of that particular problem.
Not attempted to, no.